Hi, gluten-free friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Good Gluten-Free Grub podcast. My name is Lauren. I am your host, and I'm happy to be here. I'm happy that you're here. I've got a lot to talk about this week's episode, so I want to jump into the podcast rundown this week before we talk about everything that is going on in the gluten-free community right now. I feel like this episode is going to be a little bit like data heavy. So there's going to be a lot of links in the show notes to help you be involved in the gluten-free community and help actually make a difference for people with celiac disease. So the podcast rundown this week, if you're new here, I do a podcast rundown where I talk about my favorite gluten-free Instagram account from the week, my favorite gluten-free bite from the week, and my favorite gluten-free brand that I love and support and have been faithful to for many, many years. So we're going to do my favorite gluten-free bite from the week. This week, we had our Thrive Market package ordered, and my favorite brand from the week as well is also going to be Thrive Market, so I'll talk about that as well. But I wanted to talk about a cereal that we got sent I chose the cereal in our Thrive Market package, and I've bought this cereal before, but it's from Cascadian Farms, and it's the gluten-free Fruitful O's. They taste like tricks. They're so good. So they come in like little rings, but then they also come in like circles, like the same way like Reese's Puffs, the same shape as like Reese's Puffs or Kix. And they are gluten-free. They're a gluten-free cereal. Honestly, you can buy them at I'm pretty sure I've seen them at Kroger. Like you can get them at basic grocery stores. Majority of the time when I buy them, they're from Good Earth if you're local to Utah, but I'm pretty sure you can find them at like Harmon's, you can find them at Sprouts, you can find them at Whole Foods, Kroger, you could even try Target. For my podcast YouTube listeners, it looks like this. They are so good. Like beware that you could potentially just eat the whole box of cereal in one setting because they're that good, and they give you the nostalgia of tricks, So if you're looking for a little cereal tricks dupe, then try the Cascadian Farms gluten-free Fruitful O's. My favorite gluten-free brand from this week is Thrive Market. Thrive Market is like a grocery delivery service. So the first time I ever signed up for Thrive was actually because where my mom lives is a small town. And so there isn't a lot of options as far as like specialty items for gluten-free. So like when I'm home at my mom's house, I'm there because of like a holiday or a special occasion. And so like, yes, I can go to the grocery store and I can buy like a bunch of naturally gluten-free things. And like, we can have tacos for dinner, or we can have chili, or we can, there's basic things in my parents' hometown. But when it comes to specialty items and like snacks and things that like I can get at like Target and Good Earth and even like Sprouts, those types of grocery stores don't exist in my parents' small town. So, my mom was like, hey, I'm going to sign up to do Thrive because I want to make sure that when you come, you can like pick and have like snacks in your cupboard. So my mom has a specific cupboard in it's kind of like a butler's pantry. So it's not in her same pantry as all of her other gluten containing items, but I do have a cupboard there that I keep gluten-free snacks, and I keep like my boxed almond milk, and I keep, like all the taco seasoning that I would use, or gravy mixes, or, just things that I'm like, when I'm at my mom's, it's nice to have a couple staples. That's where I keep my toaster bag. So my mom was the first one that was like, hey, I'm going to sign up to do this Thrive Market because they have like gluten-free groceries, and I want to make sure that you have stuff when you come. So if you live in a small town that doesn't have access to big chain grocery stores, or even like health food grocery stores that give you the option of having specialty gluten-free items, then Thrive Market is something that could be really beneficial, because you can just go on their website and you can choose from a massive variety of pantry staples. And like this week specifically, we got like gluten-free chocolate covered pretzels. We got the mini Chomps beef sticks because I can't find those mini Chomps beef sticks in any stores. And sometimes my kids just want a small beef stick. They don't want a full stick. We got like the FitJoy like Ritz cracker dupes from there. We got the Late July nacho cheese chips, which are like the Dorito dupe chips. And you can choose not just food, but they have like supplements and like health food things, and they have a massive variety of stuff. So that's my favorite brand that I wanted to talk about this week. You guys can get, I think it's 30% off your first order from Thrive Market with my code GGFG. That's in all caps. I'll put that in the show notes, but it's just a great way to have staples delivered directly to your door, especially if you don't have access to grocery stores that have specialty gluten-free items. And I have been dealing with that for years because, my parents' small town is small and my restaurant options are pretty limited there. So I always have to be prepared when I am spending a long weekend or a holiday in a small town. And I know that many of you can relate to that because you live in small towns and you don't have access to like Sprouts or Whole Foods or things like that. So this is just a great option for you if you're looking for that. All right. The podcast rundown. Oh my gosh, why is that happening? Sorry. For the favorite gluten-free Instagram account of the week, it is Gluten Hates My Guts. Let me pull up her Instagram account real quick. So her name is Alana. I actually don't know where she's based out of. I want to say like the UK maybe. I'm pretty sure somewhere in the UK. But her Instagram account is called gluten_hates_my_guts. And she just does like fun spoof like satire videos about being celiac, but they're also educational. It's like she's making sure that they're educational, but also like making it fun. And I've been following her for a long time, and she's really great. She does a really great job of bringing awareness to celiac disease, and in restaurants and in the medical community and in like doctor's office community, things like that. She's really good at helping you realize, okay, this is what I need to advocate for myself. Like at a doctor's office or at a restaurant. And this week, she just posted a video about like all the different countries and like how good they are with celiac safety and like how challenging it can be in different countries. But the bottom line of her video was like, Spain is an amazing country for people with celiac disease. So I've always wanted to go to Spain. I have like a massive, insane, like gluten-free travel bucket list where I'm like, these are countries that I know I want to go to because I know they have great gluten-free options. And Spain is one of them because Spain just does a great job. Italy does an amazing job too, but based on the video that she shared, maybe she's had a different experience than I have, which we are all entitled to our own different experiences. And I've had people message me and be like, I didn't have a great experience in Italy. And I'm like, I had an amazing experience in Italy, So everyone's going to experience things differently because of their comfort level as far as advocacy goes, as far as the type of research that they do before a trip, things like that. So go give her a follow on Instagram. I'll link her page in the show notes as well. But her name is Alana and her Instagram account is called Gluten Hates My Guts. Okay. Let's jump into the things that I wanted to discuss specifically this week. I have had a lot of questions just from my DH episode from last week. Did I do a DH episode last week? Oh my gosh, my brain. I don't know. If I did, I honestly can't remember, but I don't remember anything that is from the past. So I hope that you guys are remembering. I had so many DMs because I posted about dermatitis herpetiformis. Yes. Okay. My episode last week was symptoms linked to celiac disease, and I talked about my DH. I had a lot of people ask me like for pictures of what DH looks like and what it looks like on me. And I've made posts about that in the past. I have content on my page about that. I have a highlight bubble about DH. But I even had a mom message me this morning saying that her son's celiac test came back inconclusive because he's only 1 year old. And so she just like doesn't know where to go from here because she has celiac disease herself. And then her little baby is having all sorts of issues. And so she was like, tell me more about DH and tell me more about what more I can do to help advocate for my child. And I said, I was diagnosed with DH from a dermatologist, not from my GI doctor. But my dermatologist knew that I had celiac disease, and he had a, like, whatever they're called when like you're doing medical school and then you like choose dermatology. And so then you like do rotations at a dermatology clinic. I don't like residency. I don't know. I have no idea what it's called. But when I got diagnosed with when I got diagnosed with DH, my dermatologist was like, hey, can I have these residents come in? And he's like, I'm pretty sure I know what you have, but I want these guys to come in and see if they can figure it out. And so they came in, there were 2 of them, and they just started asking me all sorts of questions about my diet, and then asked me if I had any autoimmune conditions. And I told them that I had celiac disease, and they were like, okay, like now that we know that you have celiac disease, we can confirm that this is dermatitis herpetiformis. And so if you're struggling with skin issues, but you don't know if you have DH or not, I would recommend seeing a dermatologist. They can help you with topical creams, or even injections. Injections is like worst case scenario. I did injections for about 4 months, and I had side effects from the injections, but at the time that I was getting the injections, it was like absolutely necessary because I was practicing in massage therapy, and my hives and my rashes were all over my forearms and my hands, and those are my tools in my job, and I like needed to have relief. But if she was like, okay, well maybe I'll do like a month off of gluten for him completely, like no gluten, nothing, and just see what happens. And I said, it's important when you're doing like a process of elimination that you only start with one thing. Cause let's say she decided like, I'm going to cut out gluten, I'm going to cut out dairy and see how he does. If he improves, you have no way of knowing if it was the gluten or the dairy. So only doing one thing at a time to see if it's going to help improve your skin. Now, obviously, if you have celiac disease, you should be eating a strict gluten-free diet anyway. But if you're still having a lot of dysfunction and you're still having symptoms, there's probably something underlying going on that is not gluten related, but your gut is still in dysfunction and you need some help. I've had Erin from the celiac space on the podcast twice now, and she is a registered dietitian who specializes in clients and patients who have celiac disease. And she can do like a poop panel. So like you submit your fecal matter and they can do an analysis on that and like see if you have SIBO, or if you have all sorts of other issues in your gut. And then you can have a treatment plan with the group of dietitians that specialize in patients with celiac disease. So there are avenues that you can take if after you've been diagnosed with celiac disease and it's been a year and you're still not feeling better, there's other things going on that you need to address. And so I would recommend, I would refer you to the dietitians at the celiac space, because they can do a lot as far as getting to the bottom of what's going on and what's dysregulated because of your poop. Honestly, like there's a lot to learn from that. So I'll put the link to her page in the show notes as well, because Erin is a great resource and she's the founder and creator of the celiac app. It is like a celiac app specifically for celiac education. It's a subscription-based app, but I think if you pay for it for the full year, it like ends up being like $4.99 a month for you to have access to everything that their app has. And it's a great resource to add to your tool belt if you have celiac disease, and especially if you are feeling like I still am having issues, I need to figure out there's something else going on. A lot of people, because they have been either undiagnosed for a long period of time, more things have snowballed into additional chronic health problems because your celiac disease wasn't being taken care of from the beginning. And so that is the harm in eating gluten with celiac disease, is it's just going to snowball into more problems. And take it from someone who has lactose intolerance, soy intolerance, and type 1 diabetes. Like you want to take care of your autoimmune disease that you have, because if it goes unchecked, it's going to lead to so many more problems that then in turn are going to just cause your life to be more challenging. And celiac is already challenging as it is. Like you don't want another layer and another layer and another layer added on top of that. So please stick to a gluten-free diet if you have celiac disease. It is the only way to truly live symptom-free. And if you aren't living symptom-free and eating a strict gluten-free diet, there's probably something else going on in your gut that needs to be addressed by someone who can help you actually get to the bottom line. And as much as I hate to say this, a lot of the times your GI doctor is actually not going to be the answer to that question. It's going to be someone who can do thorough blood work, hair analysis, poop analysis, stool analysis, things like that specialize in celiac disease. And I know a lot of you have had really great experiences with your GIs and they're like really helpful, but I would say that that's a really small majority of you that have had a great experience with a GI. I would say most people have a pretty negative experience with GI doctors, and that's really frustrating for all of us. It's so frustrating for all of us. So I'm right there with you. I've had a lot of negative experiences with doctors. Okay, there is also something going on in the gluten-free community. Maybe you've heard of it, maybe you haven't. I'm collaborating with a couple of other creators to bring awareness to the fact that the FDA wants people to come forward. They want the public to come forward to discuss why it's important that food laws become stricter in the United States. There's inaccuracy in food labeling, and like right now, the United States FDA doesn't require that barley and rye are listed as food allergens on packaged foods. And that's a problem because those of us with celiac disease, gluten is in wheat, barley, and rye. So when we're looking at a food label and we're going, oh, okay, it says contains wheat. Okay, great. We know that it contains wheat, and that helps us know that that product is not safe for us. But there are products that are on the shelves right now that don't contain wheat, but they contain barley malt. They contain barley malt extract. They can contain rye. But those are not listed as allergens in like the bold black at the bottom of an ingredient list. So if you're just looking for the bottom of an ingredient list and you just see that it doesn't contain wheat, you still need to read the ingredient list because there could be barley malt extract, malt flavoring, malt extract. Like all of those words are all under the category of things that contain gluten. So the FDA is asking that people with celiac disease come forward and make comments specifically indicating why it is important that they improve label laws and improve ingredient labeling laws. And they're literally just like turning it to the public and being like, if you want this to change, like you need to write in now. And I know that like in like a lot of the times it's like, oh, that's a hassle. Like that's so much work to like figure out who I have to email and send an email to and let them know like, hey, I have celiac disease. I would really appreciate this to move forward. This is how cross-contamination affects me. This is how getting gluten affects me. That's actually what they're looking for. They want the community to come forward so that they have evidence that the food laws and the food labeling laws need to be improved. They also are wanting information about anyone who like has issues with cross contact, because if something comes in contact with gluten in the manufacturing process, that can also harm people with celiac disease. So there's a lot of harm being had already because the food label laws are not strict in this country. And we as a community need to come forward. And I am inviting each of you to please share your input. I will put a link in the show notes to where you can go and what you can do and all the steps that you can take so that you can use your voice to help make the change in the FDA so that we can have safer food labeling laws and that we can feel more secure and more safe when we read an ingredient label on packaged foods. So you'll see more content like that from me over the next couple of weeks because I'm collaborating with some other creators and we're making videos to help raise awareness so that the community knows that we need to hear your voices about this specific law moving forward and making a difference for those of us with celiac disease. Okay, there is one other thing I wanted to talk about specifically in the celiac but type 1 diabetes realm, because I don't talk about type 1 a lot on this podcast. I would say that 95% of you who listen just have celiac disease, and then there's 5% of you who have both celiac and type 1. But I wanted to talk about a trial that we did with my kids. There is an organization called TrialNet, and they can test children of people who have type 1 diabetes in their family. So in my case, I have type 1 diabetes. So my kids qualified to be a part of this trial, and it was free. It was provided by the company that's doing the research to try to help catch type 1 diabetes early, to test early screening and things like that. So it's not just like if your parent has type 1, but like if you have a child who already has type 1, all of your other children would qualify for that. If you have a direct relative with type 1, you can apply, and there's a form that you fill out to let them know like who in the family has type 1. Anyway, we did the test for my kids. This was probably like, I want to say in November. We went to Primary Children's Hospital here in Lehi, Utah, which luckily for us is like not even 10 minutes away. And they, I had applied for it. There was just, I literally just saw an ad for it on Facebook or Instagram. And it was like, join this type 1 diabetes trial. If you or a direct family member has type 1 diabetes, you can have free testing, free screening for other children or family members. So I was like, that's amazing. So I clicked that link. It was a very short form for me to fill out. And I basically just said, I'm the one that has type 1 diabetes, and asked me if there's anyone else in my family who has type 1 diabetes. And my brother also has type 1 diabetes. So I put in that information, put in like when I was diagnosed, and then just like my kids' names and their birthday. And then they called me and said, hey, we want to schedule them to come and get their type 1 screening. So we went to the hospital, and they did have to get their blood drawn, which I know that can be traumatic for some people, but we had a lot of conversations about the importance of the screening with my kids. Both my kids have had their blood drawn before, and they hated it. So I knew that going into this blood draw was going to be a challenge. But when I had talked to the gal who had set up my appointment, she said, we have lots of things to try to help the kids. And, they have this little like vibration strap that they put on, and they call it like the vibration buggy, and it's like a cute little ladybug, and they put it on their arm, and it vibrates and it tickles them, so it like helps distract them. And like I just held each of my kids in my lap, and I just told them to like close their eyes and take a deep breath. And like luckily my kids have both multiple times been pricked on their fingers to get their blood sugar checked. I check their blood sugar a couple of times a year, or if I like see weird signs. But they were both so brave, and they knew also that we were going to go get ice cream afterwards. So I was like, okay, you guys, it's okay if you cry, like that's okay. But in the moment, we're going to try and be brave. We're not going to move. We're going to stay still so that they can get your blood. It'll be done and over with in less than like 90 seconds. So I was like, if you can count to 90 in your head, it'll be done. And both my 8-year-old and my 5-year-old did it. And as a mom, I was like, I was really anxious about it, because I'm like, if we get these tests back and they both come back positive, the next steps, if you tested positive for it, was additional blood work to try to help. So I think they test for like, there's 5 different antibodies that they can test, but this specific first round of testing, they are only testing 3, which are like the most common triggered antibodies, I guess. And then they said if this test comes back positive, then we will do the other 2 tests just to see, where they're at. And then also this helps us it helps in our study, it helps in clinical trials, all sorts of things. So I was like, I was anxious about having that information. I do want to clarify that it wasn't genetic testing, because in my mind, I was like, okay, if we get them genetically tested and they both have the genetic marker for type 1 diabetes, like, I feel like, okay, so they have the genetic marker. So now we just wait until that gene is triggered. Like, it could never trigger their entire life, or it could trigger from something, right? Like, I didn't feel like getting the genetic testing was going to like give me peace of mind. It's like, okay, but this is antibody testing, and it's early type 1 diabetes screening. So the antibody testing, anyway, just so you know, it's not genetic testing. You can still go the route of getting genetic tested, but that's just going to tell you yes or no if they have the gene. You still don't know if and when that gene is ever going to trigger, and like they'll develop type 1 diabetes. So anyway, so we did the test, and I was anxious because I'm like, if these test results come back positive, then, we'll have to do another round of blood work, which, we got to hype them up and get them ready for that again. But then also just knowing that they're at a higher risk of developing type 1 diabetes, I really don't want that to happen to my kids. I've said this so many times, but I'm like, if my kids get diagnosed with celiac disease, like I can totally handle that. That just does not seem too hard for me. I could do that. They could do that. My husband could do that. Our family understands it. We could do it. But if they got type 1 diabetes, I feel like I would spiral out of control, and it would be so hard because I was diagnosed at 31. So I lived a huge chunk of my life without ever having to deal with that. And then now I have a very unique case of type 1 diabetes where I'm not insulin dependent yet. And yes, I still monitor my blood sugar. I still wear a CGM. I still occasionally have to give myself some insulin, but it's not anything in comparison to any other type 1 diabetics that I know. And, my brother has had type 1 for 7 or 8 years. And I have 6 or 7 first cousins with type 1 diabetes. So it's running rampant in my family. And so that's why I was like, I really want to do this early childhood screening. So if you are listening and you have type 1 diabetes, you can participate in this TrialNet early diabetes screening for free for your kids and direct family members. I will put the link for it in the show notes for you guys to go register, and then they'll just call you and let you know when they can do the test. We were in and out of the hospital in less than 10 minutes just to get blood work. And then it took about 6 weeks for us to hear back from them, but we got a letter last week. And I opened up my mailbox and I could see that it was from TrialNet, and it said to the parents of my kids' names. And I opened them and I was feeling like really heavy in my chest. Like, okay, this is really going to determine a lot. Anyway, both my girls tested negative for the 3 antibodies for early childhood screening. And that gave me so much relief. Now I know that isn't 100% confirmation. And they even say in the letter, this isn't 100% confirmation that your child will never get type 1 diabetes, but their risk is significantly reduced of ever developing it. So if you're wanting some direction and some peace of mind and just having that something to test your kids, then I would recommend going to the show notes in this podcast episode, clicking the link for the TrialNet and registering your direct family members, kids, whoever it may be, and to do the early diabetes screening. I get a lot of questions in my DMs about what my type 1 symptoms were, and I just want to quickly touch on them in case you're curious. I also had 2 moms this week message me and say that their child was diagnosed with type 1 in the last 6 months, and then just recently this week or the week before, they were diagnosed with celiac. So celiac is a sister autoimmune disease to type 1. They run in pairs. It's very common for a child to develop, or even an adult to develop, celiac disease after a type 1 diabetes diagnosis. So it's important to know the signs and symptoms of both, and it's important to be aware of your health and take it seriously and advocate for yourself, ask for blood work, research, all of these things. It's a lot of the healthcare system is on us in the United States. We have to do so much advocacy to just freaking get one request of hey, I want to be tested for this. And it's so common for doctors to just be like, I doubt you have that. I can't tell you how many people message me and say that their doctors tell them I doubt that's the case, or I doubt you have that. Turns out they end up having whatever it is that they researched themselves and that they felt was what was going on in their own bodies. So remember, you know your body better than anybody else, better than any doctor. You know your child's symptoms, you know your child's behavior better than any doctor. If you are a parent and your child is having issues, you know them, you know their needs, and you have to advocate for them. So I just want to quickly talk about the signs and symptoms of type 1 for me specifically. But I mean, these are common. These are the common type 1 symptoms. It would be excessive thirst, excessive peeing, extreme fatigue. It can be rapid weight loss. Your body can drop weight really fast. If you are running on high blood sugars for an extended period of time, I'm talking weeks. If you're having really high blood sugars for several weeks, you're going to lose a lot of weight. And then if you have had high blood sugars for a long time as well, you can start losing your vision. So just something to be aware of. If you are a woman and you have had high blood sugars for a long time as well, your pH balance is going to be off. And so you'll get yeast infections. And it is so uncomfortable to have multiple yeast yeast infections that even yeast infection medication isn't fixing because your pH balance is off because of your blood sugar. So, peeing a lot, drinking a lot, feeling like you can never quench your thirst. Those are common symptoms. And being really irritable and being so fatigued, just really, really tired. The week or so before I was diagnosed with type 1, I was sleeping like 11 hours at night and still feeling like I needed to take a 1 to 2 hour nap in the middle of the day. And I was chugging water bottle after water bottle after water bottle, orange juice, apple juice, soda, and I wasn't like a juice drinking, soda drinking person, but I was like, I have got to drink so much because I'm so thirsty. But then I'm like peeing. I mean, even now I get up within the first hour of falling asleep to go pee because I drink water up until I go to bed. But this was like 7-8 times in the night getting up to go pee. So just some symptoms to be aware of and know about. And if you know anybody that has a blood sugar meter, which is like the little device that you can prick your finger and then you can test your blood in this little tester. If you know somebody who has one and you're feeling like, I'm having some weird symptoms, you can ask a friend to get your blood sugar checked, but make an appointment with your primary care doctor and say, hey, I'm having what looks like type 1 diabetes symptoms, and I would like to get tested for that. So just being aware, knowing what autoimmune conditions are linked to celiac disease is really important because autoimmune conditions like to run in pairs and sometimes in trios. So just stay educated and stay on top of testing and being aware of symptoms that you might having and having regular annual physicals and having a doctor that you can reach out to is all very, very important. I will put the link to everything that I talked about in the show notes. Stay tuned for more information on how you can help improve food labeling laws, and what you can do to push the FDA in the right direction to get actual food labeling progress in this country. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope this episode has helped you in some way, shape, or form. Thank you to everyone who came to my market last weekend. It was a huge hit. It was a huge success. Multiple vendors sold out like within a couple of hours. And it was a really fun community event in Salt Lake City. If you're interested in participating in more of my events or you want more information about it, I have a Facebook group specifically for the Utah events because I know not everyone who's listening or follows me on Instagram lives in Utah. So I have a Utah specific Facebook page for that. If you go to the link in my bio on Instagram, you can scroll down and it will say join the Facebook page. The Facebook page is where I'm going to post about all my upcoming events. We already have a date for the celiac awareness food truck roundup in May. It's going to be on May 23rd, so mark your calendars for that. I've done it the last 2 years and it's a huge success, and it is an awesome community event where food truck vendors come and they serve thousands of gluten-free people in our amazing community here in Utah. So join the Facebook page. Make sure you're staying in the know. Follow me on Instagram, TikTok. And if you love the podcast, I would love it if you would leave a rating and a review. It just helps other people find the podcast that are looking for help, looking for advice, direction, literally any piece of information when it comes to being gluten-free. I so appreciate you guys being here, and I hope you all have a wonderful gluten-free week, and I'll talk to you next week. Bye.